Our team chose to focus on cognitive and sensory decline in aging adults and how their environment, specifically nature, can impact this. Starting at 50, the senses begin noticeably declining. Our project challenge is how can these environments create positive, stress-free spaces through sensory stimulation through nature? We began looking at this through several different modes: primary research through a literature review and supporting research through multiple site visits.
At the facilities we visited, St. Martha's and Woodbridge Manor, we found there was a lack of use in the community areas unless it was set up by the coordinators. The facilities have a lack of natural light and views to nature, and many of the specific rooms, such as the gym, movie room, and library, had little usage from the residents. Outdoor spaces that were easily accessible are mainly used by residents for getting fresh air when weather is permitting.
From recent research, we have found that natural elements affect the brain through sensory stimulation. As an example, the use of herbs to stimulate the sense of taste and smell. Another would be water elements that present a calming sound and cooling touch. When a sense is lost, sensory compensation or sensory substitution occurs, taking what senses are available and utilizing them in the placement of sensory impairments. For example, touching objects when hearing is impaired, or the use of braille for the loss of vision.
Through our interventions, we aim to create a mini sensory ecosystem through nature incorporation that will encourage sensory use, compensation development, and positive stimulation.
The lack of use in some rooms, such as the library at St. Martha's, one of our now interventions is turning that into a sensory nature room. As time goes on, the room can progress. At the start, simple interventions such as adding fake plants, images of nature, sounds of nature, and tools such as painting. The next progression includes switching out the lights to include sunlight simulating light bulbs, grow lights to introduce real plants, a small water fountain for sound stimulation, and a mural or textured wall. The next step would be add a TV that can display nature views, and an essential oil diffuser will be used for olfactory stimulation. The last addition will be bringing a virtual reality headset for the residents to use and feel connected to nature.
What we can do now through nature-based products is introduce nature images in the hallways and within common spaces. Outside bird baths could be implemented for those interested in bird watching. The near intervention would place fake plants in safe and non-hazardous locations within the buildings, as well as adding lighting that simulates sunlight. Outside bird feeders are used to develop a sense of purpose. Our far intervention would be the adding of living plants that require very little light, again, in safe, non-hazardous locations. Outside wind chimes and spinners for natural calming sounds and features. The farther intervention introduces stations for both gardening for the residents, as well as a table meant for filling the bird feeders.
Looking at our horticulture therapy intervention, for the now, current garden on site should be assessed for its existing sensory elements. Can color be added? Can shade be added? Can different plants be added for texture, smell, and touch? For the near intervention, the addition of a shading element, as well as events that speak to the importance of nature implementation, would be the next step. Looking at the far intervention, this would be looking off-site. We suggest a joint venture with local colleges and Detroit Public Schools agricultural systems, where residents from multiple villages could be transported to different gardens in the community. Taking this farther, we suggest going to the next level by incorporating sensory zones into these existing gardens. From these interventions, we are showing that nature-based interventions can be implemented on multiple scales with different levels of affordability in mind. This stimulation is important to engage cognitive function through sensory stimulation, fighting sensory decline.
Through our interventions, sensory stimulation of the residents will be increased. This will encourage sensorial compensation formation, which will positively impact cognitive function. This all promotes a healthier brain for those that are aging.
Here is a list of our sources. Thank you for listening to our presentation.